we talk about Joseph Campbell a lot, and then you were kind of mentioned that the Star Wars movie, it's kind of related to his theory or his philosophy behind it.
Campbell and George Lucas met several times at Skywalker Ranch, and George Lucas employed a lot of Joseph Campbell's, gathered his philosophy from so many mythologies around the world. So it's a collection, actually. I saw it at Man's Chinese Theater on this gigantic screen, and THX 11 sound was first introduced. And I was sitting there and under the influence of some pretty good smoke.
Okay.
And this Star Cruiser came over, it just came out. And I never thought the thing would end. It just kept going. And that hooked me. I was like done forever. I didn't care what the rest of the movie was. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's time goes by fast. February is almost gone.
Shh, don't say that.
Don't say that. Okay.
But
Yes.
it almost is. It's almost gone.
Yeah. My gosh. So so the universe, the time that we are on this 3D world it's a split second of the universe. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of let's say the planet that we are Earth planet, it says what 13 billion.
No, that's the age of the universe. We're 4.5 billion.
4.5. Okay, yeah. So that's why I say our February is a even
It's a blip.
smaller than a blink.
But time is a construct for man only. It's used for us to measure things by. The rest of the universe could care less. It does what it does, and it just keeps doing it. And we're the only ones concerned with, oh, I've got to be here. I've got to be there. I'm this old. I'm that, So the construct of time as we use it puts a lot of stress on us.
Yes. Because after I start meditation in the morning, first thing I wake up is meditation. So now I'm more calm, even if I have to go stuck in the traffic and everybody's around me is rushing. And sometimes I was like, see the people drive so fast and then they have to stop at the red light next to me. I'm thinking, where are you rushing to go to? You're not going anywhere. So,
my favorite one is that person who's behind you and they have to get around you and they don't go any further than you do.
Right.
And usually you pass them.
I know. And it's funny that the gas price right now is so high again. And then, but there's some, those, how should I say, ghetto car, or they like to slow it and then make that noise. I'm thinking, okay, don't complain about you have to go pay high gas price because you're wasting the resource by doing that.
Well, either that and everybody's driving an SUV, which is terrible on gas mileage.
Wow. I imagine before they already have to spend like $100 to fill the tank. Now probably 150 to 80, right? Those
my
trucks.
Yeah, my particular car, it only takes like 18 gallons, but I have to use premium in it.
Yeah.
So, it's costing me $75, $80 to fill it up.
Wow.
So I put 30 in.
Yeah, there's a joke like right now we bring $100 bill for pay the gas. They don't need to have a lot of change for us.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, so we're kind of off topic here, but we're talking about time. So we talk about Joseph Campbell a lot, and then you were kind of mentioned that the Star Wars movie, it's kind of related to his theory or his philosophy behind it.
Yeah,
correct?
not kind of. I mean, Campbell and George Lucas met several times at Skywalker Ranch, and George Lucas employed a lot of uh, Joseph Campbell's philosophy. And of
Right,
course, Joseph Campbell gathered his philosophy from so many mythologies around the world. So it's a collection, actually. And George Lucas just utilized it for Star Wars. But it's really simple. The basic concept is, there's the Force, and it doesn't define a deity. What it does is it talks about an energy that flows through the universe. Now, sometimes
right.
they can get even a little wowed out for me when they talk about it flows through everything, and yes, it does, because in actuality, there is only one energy in the entire universe, and it just takes many forms. And so, yeah, it's all flowing through uh, everything. So we
Yeah,
are all connected. I mean, you can't that just is the way it is,
right. Uh-huh.
because of because of the nature of the universe.
Yes. And when you talk about the movie is very influenced by different culture, and you mentioned about the fight scenes, it's
Or
related to Japan
well,
culture.
samurai, yeah. In fact, I would say that all of their laser lightsaber fights are just, if you watch any of the Kurosawa samurai movies, you'll see that it's just a total borrowing of that. The stance and everything, how they move, and it's almost like a dance.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, so and George Lucas wasn't the only one. There were several Kurosawa movies that Clint Eastwood
Mm.
brought
Oh, yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
the screen with it. Well, yeah, the director Sergio Leone. A Fistful of Dollars is an English version or English speaking version of the movie Yojimbo. And there's a couple of more that are like that, but it's interesting. And of course, uh, Clint makes no hesitation to tell everybody exactly what they did.
Yeah, and I also real thinking the character, let's say Yoda, it's like a master. It's like like an Asian sensei type of figure or character.
Asian, in most disciplines, whether it be Eastern or Western, you have a mentor, and so whatever you call him, uh, more often in the East, you would call your mentor master. In the
Hmm.
West, we don't do that as much.
I
you know,
think some now do
well,
the
it's the incorporating
right,
of the Eastern into the Western.
right.
We're becoming a little more homogenous instead of quite so bifurcated. Them and us. And I think as the world blends, we're going to see that,
Yeah.
and other cultures' mythologies will creep into ours.
Hmm. Yes, it's. I remember growing up, everything from America is a wow, McDonald's and KFC at the time. Yeah.
But those are not quite as spiritual as I like to
I
think.
know, but I'm just saying that, the
No,
influence between the cultures and like we mentioned about the pyramids last time, that intertwine with a different culture, different geographics.
right. The Central American
Right.
people, right, and the Egyptians, they share the same design, effectively.
Right.
Yeah, and even in the ancient world, see that just kind of reinforces that whole idea that we are all connected, and you can't get
Hmm.
away from it. Even in a time and a place where there's no internet, there's no telephones, there's no way to instantly
Hmm.
communicate with another culture. Somehow it keeps happening, And it's been happening throughout the ages. And it's migration, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. So the Star Wars movie has some sort of, migration, different planets, had different, I should say, beings,
yeah,
with different figure. Yeah. And
some of it's very cartoonish and some of it's not.
yeah, very, how do you say that? Cyber, half human, half animal, some sort.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, right, right.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. And the movie was made in what, 1970s, right?
Well,
Before
the first movie was made, I believe. Well, it came out in 1977.
yeah.
I saw it at Man's Chinese Theater on this gigantic screen, and
Yeah.
THX 11 sound was first introduced. And I was sitting there and under the influence of some pretty good smoke.
Okay.
And this Star Cruiser came over, it just came out. And I never thought the thing would end. It just kept going. And that hooked me. I was like, done forever. I didn't care what the rest of the movie was. I'm like, wow.
I see. Well, I heard this, like, in the beginning, people thought this is a movie for kids, but then it turned out to be, it's more broad than just kid for kids.
Well, I think the storylines are for adults,
Right.
and that like R2D2 and C3PO are thrown in for the kids to attract them to bring them into the sense that they're there too. So I
Mm-hmm.
think Lucas did a great job of incorporating so many things into this movie. Like you say, it's really written for adults, but bring in the kids. And I think what happened is after the first three,
Mm-hmm.
then the other ones, the prequels, they were more for kids
Okay.
because I don't know. They to me they weren't as good, and the storyline gets uneven and a lot of. And I'm such a perfectionist, and I can't let go of that. And when the
Okay.
storylines don't match up, it's like, oh god, I can't stand this.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that I don't mind saying this, but I n- I just recently watched Star Wars, the whole thing.
Like what all?
Because I think was my thinking was in the very beginning. I'm not really into too sci-fi, like Star Trek. I had never seen any Star Trek, so I was thinking, okay, Star Wars just so sci-fi, it's not too realistic. But then somehow was this like 2016? I just watched the first one, so
So now, when you say the first one, which one was that? Is
the
that
first one that released. So
so that was
yes, I watched based on the release timeline, not the story.
because that's actually chapter 4, as you know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But to me, those A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and The Return of the Jedi are just they're some of the greatest movies ever made. And for me, The
Mhm.
Empire Strikes Back is probably one of the greatest movies ever made on so many different levels.
Yeah, I've been saying this, like all the movies that's been out. I feel it's sci-fi maybe in the past, and it's become a documentary in a sense. Looking back.
Yes,
So like the all three, the trilogy you just mentioned. What is it? The Hope,
A
New
New
Hope,
A New Hope,
New Hope, Empire Strike Back, and then
Return of the Jedi.
yeah, that just sound like the politic we have, starting from Trump, Biden, and then it's funny.
Everything folds in together. Nothing ever changes. People think, I know we're getting off topic for a moment, but people think
Yes.
that the United States is like the government's so corrupt. I want to tell you,
Hmm.
the first Congress was as corrupt then as the Congress today. There's
Yeah.
no difference.
Yes.
The only difference is that there's more money involved. But
Uh,
it's just as corrupt from the day it began.
Yeah, well, to me, I feel it's because right now we have social media and we have different people can do something like podcasts. So there's a lot of different opinion, voices, and information compared to back then.
Well,
That's
that's true. But
yeah.
what I'm talking about is the behavior of Congress itself, the
Mm-hmm.
graft, all the backbiting, the fighting, everything that goes on internally
Mm-hmm.
happened in the first Congress as it does today. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Eh,
well, the more things
eh,
change, the more they stay the same.
yeah, we didn't really get too off the topic because the dark side on Star Wars kind of just represent what you
Exactly.
just said. So
But what I was going to say is
mhm.
the Star Wars movies were based on mythologies,
Yes.
different mythologies. There's a couple of mythologies drawn in to complete the whole picture,
Right.
but mythologies are what guide us as people through our
Mhm.
lives. And one of the things that I see today is that people are getting their mythologies more from movies
Mhm.
and from books or new mythologies being provided because we've been writing on the same mythology for quite a long time. And
Okay.
that's basically the Percival theory, where the young individual, suffers a hurt and then spends his life trying to mend that wound, and then when he does, that's basically getting the Holy Grail,
Yeah.
taking it back to where it belongs. And that's
Mhm.
the journey. And that's one of the things that Joseph Campbell writes about. It's called The Hero of the Thousand Faces.
Okay.
It's the hero complex in our society and mythology. And it's a common thread that has run through many different cultures.
Right.
And the theme is still very omnipresent today.
Yes. So you sent me a kind of like a diagram. Is that
Yes,
related to what you're talking about?
it is exactly what I'm talking about. It's our journey in life and look,
Mhm.
and what we're called for, recognizing it, accepting it, rejecting it, taking it
Mhm.
on, going through it, it being hard. I don't want to do it. I want to give up. I can't do this. Enlightenment.
Yeah, and I'm gonna show the diagram. The diagram, it reminds me of this phrase. It's called "so above, so below."
Okay.
Right?
I'm
The
not,
one that the one you I'll show. Hang on
I
one
sent you two.
second. Yes, one
One
second.
is more layered than the other.
Yeah, hang on. I have to put on my glasses. I can read now. Okay, right here. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, can you see now?
Yes, there it is. That's the simple one.
Okay. Yeah, so above, so below is kind of like what I mentioned, and the known and unknown. You mentioned that last time too.
Right. Okay. Now, basically, every individual is called to something.
Yes.
And, and what it shows here is that, we can get supernatural aid. And a lot of times, what the person called refuses to call. They
Mm-hmm.
don't, they don't want to hear it because they have other things on their minds that they think that they want to accomplish, but yet the universe is calling them to a specific thing. And for me, I had to learn how to focus my attention on the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the universe was calling me. I had to
Yeah.
realize that I was worth the universe calling out. I think
Yeah.
one of the biggest misconceptions most people have, and I know I'll speak for myself, and I've spoken to many people over the years, but most people have a difficult time feeling they belong on earth. That they belong. And we're always searching for a place to be. And that's not necessarily being in Long Beach or Los Angeles. That place to be is internally.
Yes.
How do I line up with the rest of all this? But I don't even think for myself, I didn't know that was the questions I was asking. All I knew was I was dissatisfied. That I knew that there was something so much more than what I was seeing, and that all this job thing, the acquisition of possessions and the drive
Material.
to get ahead and be the whatever. It just seemed so foolish to me.
Yes.
I will say that I like money, but money has never been a motivator for me.
Same here. I think it's about fulfillment, purpose.
Well, exactly. Without purpose, it's hollow.
Mm.
For me, it goes nowhere. And
Eh, Yes.
and I can get in that headspace even though I know better. None of I think one of the misconceptions I had is I've always thought, well, once you get enlightenment, then you're like Buddha. You're now perfect, and you're going to function at this groovy level where nothing will ever bother you, and you'll be able to handle everything perfectly, which is just an absurd notion on my part. Again, that's my thinking. But sharing with a lot of people, a lot of us have
Mhm.
these ideas that have no basis in reality until we began the journey, and then you learn.
Hmm. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Because right now, a lot of our society is about money, about material, about status, and people just thinking that's the thing will make them happy. That's the thing. That's their purpose, but it's not, and that's why so many people are not happy or depressed, suicidal, right? And at the same time, there's another portion of people probably partially awakening, but they are afraid, they are fear. Oh, if I, move forward with this path or this journey, then I'm afraid other people might judge me or give me opinion, say something bad, or I might lose my job or lose my money.
What do I do
Or-
without my stuff? I think is the biggest question. What do I do if I lose my stuff?
yes, that's
And
very heavy question.
but the answer is really simple. You become free.
Yes,
You
you.
know, so often, people drive around in our cars, that we're paying $400 a month for, and we're going to make that $5,000 a month mortgage payment, and we see some guy digging in a trash can for an aluminum can or a plastic bottle, and
Hmm.
I don't want to live like that, but at
Mm-mm.
the same time, that person's so much freer, you know
Yes, it's very interesting contrast.
because I had a time in my life
Mhm.
where I virtually lost everything that I had except for a 1973 Volvo,
Okay.
and I had a guitar and
Hmm.
a stereo and a
Hmm.
piece of art, and that was it.
And
And
what did you
oh,
perform or what did you do?
well, at the time I was coming through a horrendous divorce,
Okay.
and so I was trying to find my way through that emotionally, and then admittedly, I still had maturing to do.
Hmm.
But what happened was, I thought I've lost everything. I was living in somebody's attic apartment,
Hmm.
where in the summertime it would reach 120 degrees,
Oh God. Okay.
and uh, I've never been happier. I didn't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
I really, I really learn the meaning of Bob Dylan's line. It's like, when you got nothing to lose. And I never understood that until I had lived it.
Mm,
There's always that. Living a thing is always so much more, put so much more emphasis on that which you heard. For me, it's like, okay, here I am living this thing. It's like, oh, no, I know what he means. And you know what? For me, little tiny bits of enlightenment from that came.
yes.
And that reminded me, I want more. There's something more here.
Hmm, hmm.
You hear it all the time. Money isn't everything. Money can't buy, but usually people with a lot of money tell you that. It's like, okay, well, I don't have any today. So you give me your money and you go be poor. And let's see how much money doesn't mean anything to you. It's always perspective, you
Yes,
know.
I agree. And what you mentioned, it's kind of, just to be honest and be vulnerable. That's what I've been a little bit going through right now.
Me too.
The enlightenment started coming through, and always think, let's say if I was doing well or okay, then I'm probably never discovered this part of the journey, right? Does that make sense?
Well, of course, it's always the stress of the hard things that make you search out more of who you are. I
True.
think
Yes, it's very true.
that's the way it's always worked for me.
Same here.
And, admittedly, my life has been very stressful, but I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've
Me
not
too.
ignored those things that showed up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a period in my life, after that nasty divorce I was telling you about,
Right.
where I became very successful. And for the
Okay.
first 20 years of that success, I was able to maintain that headspace of, I'm thankful, I am blessed.
So
And exactly. And I could handle any situation which came my way. And then I took over. And when things went bad, I went with them. I used to have a belief in a higher power, and it was nameless. It didn't have a name. But I
mm,
used to believe that there was something that was, and
right.
when the hard times came,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't hang on.
Okay.
I had a lot of losses in a very short period of time, and it was very difficult to maintain.
Right.
And I became bitter. I became angry, and those don't produce any. They don't produce any fruit. You know,
Right.
they kill the trees.
Yes.
And it's been a while. It's been a hard journey back.
Mm-hmm.
People show up in our lives for reasons. I truly believe that, and they
Same here
and they leave our lives for
for
reasons.
reasons.
You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
uh, and sometimes you don't know exactly what that is. But I like to think about, why is this person in my life? And I think it's natural to, do I want to be friends? We evaluate relationships.
Right.
And then some relationships are just deeper from the outset, and you know it. And you know that there's a higher purpose for those people coming into your lives.
Yes.
And for
I.
me, I like to pay attention to that, and
Mm-hmm.
like to think, wow, like, oh, this person's here to remind me of what I already know, but I'm not living.
Yeah.
you know? And that gives me an opportunity to back away and take a look at my life and be objective and say, ah, okay.
You you mentioned about you this rediscover a lot of different things this past week.
Well,
Is
look,
it that kind of related to what you're saying right now?
well, yes, it is, especially our conversations, not on, camera or anything, but
Right. Okay.
I studied shamanism. I've studied, I've done a lot of reading about, the cosmos and various
Mhm.
religions around the world. And, I take what I can from each of those.
Right.
And what happens is I've been in a place like you, money's really tight. You know my story at the moment,
Yeah.
um,
I understand. Same here.
and what happens is it's like I will use you. You came back into my life, and,
Okay.
and our conversations about the things that we talk about remind me that I know certain things. And
Okay.
and because I know more than you and get to impart to you certain information,
Mhm.
that's when I learn the most, is when I am in a position to empower somebody else.
Yes. I
Okay.
just have a goosebump right here. 'Cause I realize I noticed that too by sharing, not just spiritual, but maybe sometimes skills or knowledge that when you share with other people, you somehow learn something new of yourself as well.
Well,
So
that's being the mentor. The mentor, the idea in our society today is you find a mentor to have somebody teach you everything that they know. And my experience is that the more you give away to somebody, the more you get back.
yes,
And speaking right now, mostly spiritually and in just love, you
yeah,
know.
uh-huh, yeah. I feel that way too, and then I can also feel that since you say we kind of reconnect, so the conversation we had, let's say 2 3 years ago, is totally complete different from after we reconnect this time. Have you
Well,
noticed that?
it is. And what's really funny, well, not
Uh-huh.
funny, but ironic, is
Right.
I wanted to approach you with
Okay.
certain things. And a week after I thought that, you approached me.
Oh, wow. That's kind of, yeah, I have that
Okay.
experience too.
So the
Yes.
it's one of those relationships where the universe has thrown us together without a doubt,
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
we provide something for back and forth,
Yes.
and it's just a wonderful thing. I
Yeah.
love to watch the universe in action where I haven't done anything. I haven't tried to do anything, but maybe had a thought like,
Mm,
when I say to myself, I need help,
mm,
what does that mean? When somebody shows up asking questions of me that I know the answers to and can help somebody else, that's help,
yeah.
because it changes my attitude and my sense about who and what I am. And especially after the last 3 years, the last 3 years have been
Cool.
very, very.
And yeah, I also heard this like, we all have an angel or someone we love pass. They are still around us and everywhere we go, and they try to help us, but they cannot intervene. But when you, like what you said, I need help, then you kind of send okay, please go ahead and guide me in a way, and they will really try to help you in a spiritual way, in signs, like you said, or somehow you are thinking about something, the answer will just appear somehow for you. You
Well,
know.
I don't think it just appears, but what happens is I have to ask the question, or I
Yes,
have
you
to
do.
put out the call.
Yes, you do.
And and I have to do it in a state of mind that isn't desperate. I have to,
Hmm.
because a lot of times, let's face it, we live in a time and place when money means so much. And the cost of everything since COVID, as we all know, has risen dramatically and put a
Yes,
strain on everyone.
everybody. Yeah.
And for me, when I'm in a place of being completely stressed out, I
Mhm.
don't think clearly. My heart isn't clear.
Same
My
here.
Yeah, I think most of us, we experience stress basically the same way,
Right.
variations, but we don't do our best under stress until we look at that. For me, until I look at that stress,
Mm-hmm.
learn how to use it to help me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, sometimes the stress is just telling me, stop stressing.
Oh my God. Are you speaking to me right now?
I mean, it's and
Yeah.
so and a lot of times it's easier said than done, and a lot of that has to do too with how what we were taught, in our homes.
Uh-huh.
Did your mom walk around wringing her hands, worrying about everything all the time, and your dad was out drinking or whatever the case may be?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you come from a family where everybody sat down together and they spoke in love and relationship instead of everyone being separate?
Yeah, exactly.
We all learn that all our skills come from different places, and
Right.
and even as an adult, you know for me, I know a lot of the things that I'm doing is like, why am I doing this? This is how my parents did stuff. And I'm constantly trying not to be my family
Yeah.
and to do things differently. And for the most part of my life, I succeeded. Very rarely was I ever even a part of my birth family.
Mm-hmm.
They were just different than I was.
Yeah, that you mentioned that before, and you just feel you don't fit in a way.
Well, my friends would come when any friends I had would come over to my parents' house.
Uh-huh.
When upon leaving, they'd ask me, "Are you adopted?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a different thinker than my family.
Yeah. Well, that makes you unique, and like I mentioned before in the previous episode, I mentioned that we've been taught different is sometimes not a good thing, But now at this point, for especially you have so much experience, life experience, you know this difference is actually a good thing, not what school taught or the society taught. Said you're different, so you're bad. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's no
just
shame attached to it
right.
because my mother shamed me all through my teenage. It was all through my
Oh,
adolescence. I mean, just through my teenage years, I was shamed by her,
oh wow.
and I ended up not really liking my mother. I mean,
Mm,
there was no. At any rate, it was very complicated. Well, it didn't have to be a complicated. She just didn't like who I was because I was a
mm,
free thinker. I was an artist. I was just
yeah.
not them. I wasn't a simple Southern Baptist Christian who had two ideas. It's either sin or not sin. I saw a different picture. I looked up at the stars. I saw the cosmos. I had a telescope.
Yes.
I saw beyond. There was so much that I wanted inside me that they didn't have.
Yeah,
Of
and they
course,
probably don't understand. That's why.
they
And
did. They did not. My
yeah,
my mother spent her whole entire life trying to change me to something that she could accept.
normal.
How bad is that? It's like at 60 years old, my mother's still trying to mother me, and it's like, what is wrong with you? It's like with my kids, by the time they were 25, well, actually, by the time they were 20,
Uh-huh.
I had no say in their life. If
Did
I
you
hadn't done the job by then, there was no job going to be done. If they came to me for any kind of advice or anything and needed my help, that's
mhm.
different. But I wasn't trying to hover over them and tell them how to live their life.
Babysit, you're not babysitting.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not a baby anymore. And my mother, and
Yeah.
some parents like to think that their children are their babies forever.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like I looked at my mother one day. I said, "Mom, what are you thinking? I've run my own business for 30 years.
Yeah.
I've traveled the world. I've gone surfing everywhere, and I've
Mhm.
done everything. It's like why do you think I need your help?
Mhm. Yeah, just like, well, if we're talking about Star Wars, just like that movie, the Darth Vader is actually the father of the Luke. Is
Exactly.
that funny?
Well, that was, probably one of the great freak out
Big
lines
outlines.
of movie history.
I'm
No,
your
no,
father.
Luke, I am your father. After Luke tries to get his like, no, that's impossible. But for me, I
Mhm,
love the dark side because the dark side's honest. If you follow
mhm,
the what would you call the good side of the force? There's the dark side and then there's the other side. They never name the other side, do they?
bright side. No, they
Well,
don't
that's what I'm
call that.
saying, the good side. But the dark side makes no pretense of its understanding of the truth. Now, if you watch like uh, Return of the Empire, or
Mhm,
when Luke goes to Dagobah system to be trained by Yoda,
mhm.
he finds out about Darth Vader being his father, and then he asks Obi-Wan. He says, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" He said, "Well," he says that Anakin when Anakin stopped being Anakin, he was no
Mhm.
longer his father from a certain point of view. See, so they
Right,
play with the truth a lot, right? It's
right.
to me, it's kind of a black and white thing. It's like, well, he's either your dad or he's not. I mean, that's a genetic deal, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
arguing that. And the dark side just says, this is black and white. I'm your dad. Believe it. If you don't, go ask Obi-Wan, right? But
Uh-huh.
no pretense of being good and then screwing everybody down the line. And the Jedi constantly screw people down the line. They're
Mhm.
they're disingenuous, they're duplicitous. It's like, and there's Darth Vader. I'm going to kill you. One thing. It's like they got one thing, and we're gonna rule, we're gonna be evil. And if you'd learn the dark side, you'd be happy.
Yeah, I totally, well, here's my thinking, 'cause, I said this before. If you're not in the dark side, or, well, or downside, so struggling, then you will never realize the bright side, because the lights only shine in the dark. That's what I said
Of
before.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, like, what our experience, our going been through right now is a little bit shaky. It's actually you and I seeing the lights by all these conversation. That's part of the enlightenment, like you said,
And
enlightenment.
and
Yeah,
the first conversation that we had is the one that actually turned on the light.
the podcast episode
No,
or
no,
something.
no. When we were at dinner that night, and
Oh, okay.
you asked me that question,
Wow.
I brought to you, I gave you the answer. You're like, I could tell shock waves went through you, and it was like, oh my God, she knows, because we'd never had that conversation before.
Exactly. Yes, I
And
know.
I was going to approach you on that. And it's like, but it was like Christmas time when we were doing, remember we were at that restaurant,
Is it this past Christmas or
past Christmas, we were at the restaurant down there.
yes,
Uh,
San Pedro?
no, no, no. We were at the, where the old Marina Hotel was, that, that center that there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm
Mhm.
talking about?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Well, we were in that restaurant, and
Uh-huh.
you said something, I said something back, you looked at me, and I said, "Well," and then we started talking about it, and
I know.
it's like, see, to me, that's when a light went on for me. It's like,
Wow.
"Oh my god, I'm being given somebody to mentor,"
Oh,
because
yeah.
I've walked the path before you,
Mhm.
and here you are asking those same questions, that I asked at one point in my life.
Really? Wow.
Of course. I mean,
Oh.
the questions are basically the same. When we're seeking something outside of ourselves, which is actually inside of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Very true. Yes.
uh, and all this that we're talking about coincides with all mythologies that, the hero and how we have to,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we suffer a loss, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and then we get enlightenment, we get an idea that we get spiritual help or cosmic help, however you want to, and
Yeah.
our vision changes, hopefully.
Yes. It does. My vision, like I mentioned before, my vision, my purpose, and the things that I was thinking or feel that's important for me, it's all changed now.
And it can change again tomorrow depending upon what you discover in the next couple of days. you know
Yes.
and hopefully it does. Hopefully, my understanding of things can expand all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but if I get pretty set in my thinking and it becomes rigid, I get
Mm-hmm.
locked in the box. I create the
Exactly.
box.
Yes.
Yeah, I create the box that I live in.
Yes. So that's why I've been saying that thinking outside the box or saying or make a comment outside of the box, because only when you step outside the box you will find exploring something new. Otherwise, every day just like repeating
You're on the
throughout
treadmill.
your entire life, every day just the same. You're not gonna.
Well, you're on the treadmill to oblivion, basically.
Yes. So this second diagram you sent it to me. It's divided into a another journey. It's a
Well, it's the same
oriental
journey.
world.
It's the
Um,
same journey. It's just more layers to it. It's has more parts to it, as you can see. I think it's a little bit better because it breaks it down for people who don't really get the simplistic view. Because with the simplistic view, you have to have read a lot.
mhm,
It helps to know Joseph Campbell's works,
mhm.
and this uh, kind of alleviates having to know a lot more.
Yeah, and I just what we were saying about out of box. This is just showing that if you willing or not fear to go outside of box exploring, then you will discover more. And maybe this is what a special world mean.
Well, isn't that is we talking about that? It's like we've talked about karma. See,
Mm-hmm.
my belief is karma affects those people who don't accept the challenge
Yeah.
of the journey.
Yes.
Okay, so they get stuck on that wheel because they never become enlightened.
Yeah. So they have to redo it again.
They have to redo it. So, and that's not exactly how most people think karma works, but that's how I believe karma works.
Same here.
Is that once you step outside of that,
Mm-hmm.
you and make no mistake, once you've done something, it's forever. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It's like the ripples in a pond. You throw a rock
Yeah.
in, they go forever, right?
Right.
You can't make them come back. So it echoes out into eternity.
Yes.
And so, we like it's always two steps forward, one step back. I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. That's just the way life is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get stuck in the two steps back. You know what I do? And I forget to go
Me too.
forward again.
Yeah. Same here. I think like it's a cycle, as we know, you say you've been doing very well and not the same here. This is not the first time I've been through this, and I've been telling myself if I can went through it last time, I can went through it again, go through it again, and this time is actually not as bad as last time. To
Well,
be
see, for me, it's changed because I'm so much older,
yeah
and
you
I'm less, and I'm telling myself I'm less tolerant.
Oh, you mean like strength wise?
Yeah, that I don't have the, well, you know what? And after yesterday and today, I realize I am still who I am. I have just as much inner strength as I've always had.
Yeah.
And I have to stop sometimes and realize it, because fear is such a corroding thread that enters our lives.
Yeah.
And fear, for the most part, and I know from experience that 99% of the things that I fear or worry about
Mm-hmm.
never come true.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
know,
It's imagination.
exactly. And it's boogeymen. And I
Yes.
stuck by the boogeyman,
Yes.
instead of just like whistling in the dark and carrying on.
Yeah.
But but we're like, again, you know,
I
our latest experiences, and I've had a lot of emotional experiences over the last 3 years, and it's
Mhm.
heightened my sense of fear.
Mhm.
And I'm just now getting to a place where I can look at it more objectively and
Mhm.
incorporate the changes that have come down
Mhm.
and apply that to my life, and now I can become strong again.
Good.
Be- You know,
Congratulations.
and
I
it's just realization,
yes.
but it has, for me, the head and the heart have to match up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes what it takes to get you back on track. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's betrayal by friends. That's whatever. No, not. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
whatever it takes. It could be financial loss. It could be whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
you just bounce back.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
sometimes it's not that easy.
Yes.
Sometimes coming back is not that easy. But I know for myself, I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
Because I know more about the big picture, which, if I begin to meditate like you're talking about, I
Uh-huh.
begin to incorporate that. I begin to feel the universe.
Right.
I begin to feel my own vibration match with the universe's.
Yes.
Because when I'm anxious, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm vibrating completely off the wall. And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do. I can't. I and I. If you notice, I don't know. Maybe you've noticed this, but the more I stress, the more I'm angry I am. The less things go right.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like you're causing.
Yeah.
It's causation. It's like everything I do is wrong. And you get in this mindset of I can't do anything right, and this.
And then you create more wrong.
Exactly. And you create more, yeah, exactly. More, I don't know, wrong, but I create more problems for myself. And then I begin to feel buried. How do I get out from under this? How will I ever, you know, uh,
Mm.
over the last few years, I have been suffering from horrible depression.
Mhm.
And I look at things, it's very difficult to maintain certain aspects of your life when you're depressed.
Yeah, I know exactly. I've been
And then
there.
and then you feel buried, and how will I ever get out of this?
Yes.
And just it's like the one way you do it is you finally realize where you're at, and then you just, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, you began to do what it takes to get out of where you're at.
Yes, I've been there, I would say a couple times in this life cycle. And at this point right now, I realize one of the way to get out is what you mentioned before, to share with others, to give.
Totally.
Yeah, and somehow, some ways,
You know,
it comes back to you, and then you will somehow, get yourself out of that situation.
right. But and I like to think that I don't approach that kind of a thing with the idea, well, this is gonna help me more than it's gonna help you.
No,
It's
not it's natural.
exactly. It's the wanting to give of what you have. That's what true giving is. Not, you give me something in a box. And of course, I like that stuff. But for me, there's more in the giving than there ever is in the giving.
Mhm.
Because when I get selfish.
Mm.
Somehow it becomes about me, but when I give, it's about you.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to stay and maintain. Kind of difficult,
Yes.
because I'm kind of isolated now, but
Mm.
um, hopefully, this
Yes.
kind of thing to me always spawns something else.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
me too. My, I already give it, do the giving because when my mom raised me, so I've been giving when I'm doing well, and I'm still giving when I'm not doing well. But I just, as much as I can, and it still feels good. At the same, it doesn't matter you're doing well or not. When you give, it feel the same way when you have a lot or have less. It's the same,
that, that's well said because when I was doing really well, I was very generous with my money
right?
and did what I could for whatever. I'm not going
Right.
to blow a
Hmm.
horn of any kind, but
Right.
what happened, and thank you for mentioning that. It's like even though things are really tight for me, I don't think I have anything to give, and yet you know what? I know that in the giving
Hmm.
is everything.
Yes, it doesn't have to be money, some like if
I
I
know it
see somebody
doesn't.
need help or something, or like I did home care for a while, and that's part of giving as well.
Right, of course.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always willing to give my friends or if somebody around the neighborhood needs me, I'm like there.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, just because we should be, we're all in the human family and we should take care of one another. And I think in today's world, that idea that we're all of a family is
Hmm.
beginning to disappear because
Yeah.
as technology leads more people to an individualized experience, we're losing the sense of community.
Yes, we lost our connection.
We have technology, not others. You
Right.
know, I mean, how many times I mean, everybody. It's a joke. How many times do you go someplace and you see four or five people at a table and they're all on their phone?
Oh yeah.
And they're
Not
talking to each other on their phone, but they're not having a verbal communication.
Not even 4 or 5 people. Sometimes I see there
Dude,
2 on a date or some
oh
sort.
my
They're
god,
on the phone.
it's like, oh wow, how do
I'm
you
ja
break anything?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe one of them or maybe both of them are swipe other people for the next date.
Well, they're probably doing that. It's like, oh, I'm in a bad
Uh,
place. You call me and get me out of here. Or,
yeah.
but even people that I know that are together, they're on their phones. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, well, then
And,
what's the
and,
purpose of going out?
and but you know what? I think we've lost the idea that we can live without that thing anymore. Have you
Yeah,
ever?
it's an addiction that I think it's, intentionally input
Oh,
into our life.
absolutely. It's another way to control.
Yes, and this is just a beginning.
Oh yeah.
From what
Oh,
I heard from from other
the
people.
beginning was the game Pong. That was
Mm,
the first video game, Pong Pong.
yeah,
Uh, it's kind of a joke, but that was the first video game. And then video games rope kids in and adults. There's just so many hooks out there. And people just seem to hate each other now. There doesn't seem to be a sense of any connect.
yeah,
Not everyone. Every now and then, you get somebody
right.
who's human.
Okay, it's true. Yeah, I think that the society tried to, disturb us from finding, we call it awakening, finding our true self, the I am that you've been telling our audience, the great I am.
I am, yes.
Yeah, because you focus on material, focus on buying stuff, or even on the phone, technology, games, then you forgot about your true self, right out the gate, right?
There's a great movie that I think everybody should see.
Okay.
and it's called The Razor's Edge, and it's by an author, Somerset Maugham.
It's a movie or a book?
It's a book and a
Okay.
movie. The movie, the adaptation, some Mom wrote the screenplay, so it's very true to the book.
Okay.
Um, it's gosh, in the 30s or 40s. It's the 30s,
In the
and
30s?
Tyrone Power is in it, and I forget who else is in it.
Okay.
But it's about an individual who he's an American. He went to World War One, served in Europe, and
Mm.
he came back. And they're wealthy and they're very well to do, and he comes back and he's disturbed, and it's not
Wow.
just by the war, but it's disturbed. He's disturbed by what's not inside.
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 Uh-huh. You mean inside of himself?
Inside of himself.
Wow.
And it's like, that's the call. See, now we showed the journey, right? That's the call.
Right.
Something's really wrong here.
Uh-huh.
Something is out of balance. Nothing looks right. There's something really wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And he begins a journey.
Yeah.
You know, and what the line in the book is, the road to spirituality is like walking the razor's edge.
Mm. Okay. Yes.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm going to let you think about that. I'm not even going to tell you what that
Okay.
because it's better you figure it out.
Yeah.
But what happened is for this individual, it sparked this whole journey. He ends up coming back to America, going through these, not marrying the girl he was going to marry.
Mm.
And he goes off and he takes these jobs as dishwashers and all these other seemingly low class things to a rich individual. But he goes through this process of learning, and along the way, guess what he
Mm.
does?
Right.
He meets people
Mm-hmm.
who have walked the road in front of him
Okay.
and impart to him their experience, wisdom, and books that have helped themselves.
Uh-huh.
He takes that and he continues to grow. He eventually winds up in India
Oh,
to learn
that's interesting.
from the masters.
Yeah.
So it's really it's black and white. It to me it's just a wonderful movie. There's a more modern adaptation of it, which stars Bill Murray, in which generally Bill Murray to me is a comic, but he does.
Mhm.
I gained a whole new respect for him after I saw him in this movie because he does it very well.
Okay.
Both movies are worth watching. In fact, one night I watched both of them back to back. But my favorite, of course, is the black and white.
Do you have it at your house?
No, I
DVD?
don't have it.
Oh,
But
so we'll have to search to see if we can find it on the streaming.
oh, it's yeah, we have to rent it. It's like
Oh, rent it.
yeah,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
still worth it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
it's so good. It's just, and if you're attuned to the subject matter, it can really give you a lot.
Mm.
At least it did for me. It filled
Okay.
some holes for me. We'll have to watch it together.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Movie night.
Movie night. Yay.
Yay.
Razor's Edge. It's really Somerset
Yeah.
Maugham. Yeah, it's really a good movie.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you again for sharing all your experience and stories, and like everybody here who's watching or listening. And then I think we're the next show when we come back, then we're gonna share something very special because we're gonna go on a trip. Okay. Alrighty, so stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification
Yes.
button so you can get notified for the next following episode.
Please
Thank
come
you.
back. I promise I'll be more articulate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.